Welcome back to the UK Bike Fit YouTube channel. My name's Dan from UK Bike Fit, and this is also Dan from Triathlon Dan. And we're doing a follow-up video today because we've done a video in the past about your bike and your fit, and we sort of picked apart little bits that we'd want to change without doing a full bike fit. And you've taken that advice on board for once and gone away and made some changes that we spoke about, and you've ridden the bike, and we'll see where we're at now, right?
Yeah, you basically ripped me apart for YouTube views is what you did. You've used me like the hunky piece of meat that I am.
It worked.
It did, but I have listened, you're right. But it's not all gone quite to plan. Some things are good, some things aren't so good. Do you want me on the bike to talk you through it, or do you want to talk you through it stationary?
We'll talk through it now. Go for it.
I'll start with the good stuff then. So you pointed out to me that on the front end, my shifters, all my bars were too far down. You said you thought my bars were actually in the right sort of place, but I needed to move my shifters up the bars a bit. I was slumping down. It was causing a crease in my arm, my wrist there. And you said it doesn't look very comfy. And the reality was that it wasn't very comfy. It made it a bit lower on the front. I was almost like falling into the bars.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I changed. Yes, I had to unwind all the bar tape. Yes, my electrical tape's coming off now still. Unwound it all, moved the shifters up, and if I'm honest, I went to and fro a few different positions. I was on and off the bike, seeing what felt different. Of course, it felt different, so I immediately thought, oh, this isn't right. I went for as close to like near enough straight line as I could, and thought, well, I'll give that a go. Now I'm looking at it a bit more closely. I think the left one's a bit further up than the right, but we won't split hairs. And I thought, right, I'll give it a go. I've ridden it a few times since then, and that feels loads better. Mm-hmm. I feel, and this isn't just bike fit mumbo jumbo, I feel more support on the front end. I feel like I'm a bit higher. And if anything, I feel more, it's hard to describe it, planted, like I'm not falling into my shifters, I am higher up. Now, I did do a long ride in this position. My hands and wrists were still hurting, but I know I'm not conditioned to that length of ride, so things were still going to start hurting at that point. On the shorter rides, I've not noticed it, I've not thought about it, so that to me says that that's more comfy. So I'm really happy with how that feels, but what do you think to how it looks?
Yeah, the way you position the shifters way better. Because I know you've done this on the other bikes as well, where you've got the shifters right the way down the bar. So you're almost like used to that position now. But the way you've set it with the shifter and the top of the bar almost horizontal, looks good. Yeah. I would say the right one's definitely lower than the the right one looks better, so I'd try and match the left to the right.
Yeah. When you explained to me the like crease in your wrist, when I looked at it there, when I was on the bike, it looks a lot straighter, and I think, well, it must be comfier, and that's sort of is reassuring when you look at it and you know that.
Yeah. If you've got that sort of position through your wrist constantly, plus a lot of body weight going through that joint, then it's only going to be uncomfortable. If you can level that off and create that pressure or soak up that pressure through the whole of the arm, it's going to be way better.
Yeah. Moving back then, so your other input was that my saddle, you said, was a bit too high. You also said 175 is a bit long for a crank. You did say you'd need to obviously spend more time than just a 10-minute YouTube video assessing me to be able to be like, this is what you need. But those were your initial inputs. So I didn't go away and swap a crank because we weren't, didn't have enough input to know that. I did drop my saddle a bit, and unfortunately I did have a bit more knee pain following dropping the saddle within a couple of hours.
Yeah. So the saddle height should be set based on the bottom of the pedal stroke. So when your foot's right at the bottom, making sure that the extension in your knee isn't too much or too little for you.
Yep.
When you drop the saddle height but don't change the crank, then this distance between the foot at the top of the pedal stroke and the saddle gets a lot shorter. When you change the crank and shorten the crank, that's going to extend that distance out. But when you've got that shorter distance here, it just means that your knee is going to be a way more flexed at the top of the pedal stroke than it should be. And that's the thing that's going to put a lot of pressure on the joint. So just changing one or the other, you might have made this saddle height better for the bottom of the pedal stroke, but for the top of the pedal stroke, you've actually made it worse.
Yeah. I've been doing some testing on my indoor bike. So I've got a Wahoo kicker bike where you can change the crank length on, you can change the seat height and all that. I haven't changed the crank length yet, but I have fiddled around with the saddle height. And exactly as you said, I couldn't quite put it in a clever way. When I was dropping my saddle, more knee pain. When I raise it up now to the point where it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's like I'm really just stretching a bit too far. The pain goes away. So I feel like there's a halfway house in there somewhere of dropping the crank length and doing something with the saddle. I don't know what exactly that looks like. And that's my reservation. Do I go and buy a 170 or a 165 or a 172.5? Like it's a bit of an unknown. But luckily, the kicker bike has slots. I can go 172.5 or 170, 167.5, 165. So I'm basically going to drop it down and see how it feels before I commit to buying a shorter crank. But is that something at a bike fit you'd be able to tell me? Or is
so if you've got the luxury of that kicker bike, then you can sort of play around with things. But we get a lot of people in who are wondering about crank length because it's out there a lot of the minute, isn't it? So we'll play around with crank length. We've got a sizing jig off to the side here that we use that's got adjustable cranks on it. So we play around with crank length like that. So then we can recommend a specific crank length. So then you can go away and buy a chain set. Because they're not a cheap purchase, so you want to know what you're buying is correct for the first time.
When you say the kicker bike thing is a luxury, it is, but I don't want to be wasting time just changing crank lengths and that session when my knee hurts and I sack it off, I don't want to be doing that. So not a great fix, but I will give it a go and report back.
Good.
All right, so you've all seen me ride the bike now, and I know you're going to let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Regardless of that, Dan is still going to let us know what he thinks. But Dan, what do you think? I don't want to say it, but I feel a bit better.
Yeah, so again, we've not done a bike fit, right? We're just going off what things visually look like and my first impressions. So I think it probably does, I think saddle height at the bottom of the pedal stroke does probably look a little bit better. It's still way too high, that's a given. But again, until you shorten that crank at the top of the pedal stroke and drop your foot, drop your knee, open your hip up, you're not going to be able to drop that saddle height any further without impacting that position. So I think that's the next thing that we definitely need to do to allow you to drop the saddle comfortably.
Why could I ride 175s 5 years ago, but not now?
Because you're an old man now and your body's changed and you're riding a different position through your upper body as well. Like everything affects everything else. So we get this a lot as well, where we get someone coming in who's ridden for 15, 20 years and they say, I've ridden the same bike, same position, everything absolutely fine, and all of a sudden this thing now hurts. And it could be like age and injury and just a natural progression of someone's body that now something hurts that didn't before. But it could also be that repetition of that bad position that your body had adapted to has finally got too much to cause some sort of structural pain or inflammation, and that's what causes the problem. It's that build-up of a bad position. I think you can get away with a bad position some people can get away with it for a week, some people can get away with it for a month, and some people 10 years, it's very variable. But you can get away with a bad position for a chunk of time before it then starts to become a problem. And most people wait until that problem means some sort of pain or injury or something that stops them riding before they seek help, whereas really it's best to nip these things in the bud so they never become a problem in the first place.
Yeah, like don't drag it out into like a 5-part YouTube series, like just book a bike fit is what you're saying.
Just book a bike fit.